Hi. I took a little week off. I was quite busy with some stuff, and I had some friends in town. A lot of traveling. Um, Happy to get back into it right now, and really excited to share my latest release, Cherry Blossom Waltz, which is what I'm going to be going over today. Just talk a little bit about the kind of the whole inspiration behind this three-track EP, where it's coming from, and what I hoped it communicated. So thanks for joining. Thanks for um, you know showing some interest in this release. It's been just a few days. I have some performance videos that I took when I was recording this. I recorded this over in Santa Monica, in Los Angeles, and on a refurbished upright. Has a lot of kind of key noise to it and everything. Um, but the goal of this entire release was to sound almost like you were remembering cherry blossoms in that nice color while you were maybe in the desert or on the desert coast. So it's a little bit of kind of a mashup between a few different things that was like roughly inspired by Algerian kind of art styles, French paintings, as well as California's coast. So it's just a lot of things going on in these three. And of course, I hope that this EP means whatever it can mean to you. Just because I'm telling you where it came from for me doesn't really mean that it needs to be that for you. The three tracks are Sospiro, Dark Clouds Drift By, Cherry Blossom Waltz, and Sur le Sable, which just means on the sand in French, which is the first track of the EP. Let's just get started and let's listen through. This one's about 5 minutes long. It's the longest track of the three. It has that repetitive motif of the dun 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 dun, that arpeggio throughout, with this kind of moving along bass pattern alternating between these two chords. And that's the melodic figure. Arpeggio up, hold, and pause, and then and also playing around with what I do with that. You can hear I start playing with that melody. And as this EP progresses, from Sur le Sable to Sospiro to Cherry Blossom Waltz, it almost kind of goes back in time from the current memory. This is right on the coast of the desert. This is where the EP starts out of the three. And I think maybe that can come across. Someone said this sounded like a waterfall. So the water component's there on the coast. This one was a lot of fun to play with, just working out how I'm going to really shape and change these figures on the piano. Pace is kind of picking up as you can hear. I don't want to interrupt these little runs I'm doing. lot of arpeggios here before the main runs of this piece. I wish I could have done those runs a little bit better, to be quite honest with you, and I did a lot of takes of this. I was a little limited. I think that I got it pretty good there, those virtuosic kind of runs. The keys action was just really sticky on the recording day. Not that I'm blaming the piano. I wish I had more time to practice on that piano, though, instead of practicing on my own. And the goal for this, as the title track, not the title track, the opening track, was to kind of set the mood of this desert setting. Like I said, roughly southern France, roughly North Africa, in spirit, in landscape. And I was hoping to go for like a piano at a bar or just a piano at a restaurant. Maybe sometime early turn of the century, 20th century, or even well after, 80s, 90s. And the piece just winds down, just going down and down and down after ramping up. And that's Sur le Sable, first track. We're going to go on to Sospiro out of these three. Sospiro, Dark Clouds Drift By, which is the parenthetical title. Dark Clouds Drift By. This one's a little bit more straightforward. Still kept in that same realm of... I'm just going to go ahead and play it. Still kept in that same realm of the desert, but things are getting a little bit more disconnected from the current environment, going back into memory. Sospiro just like a sigh, kind of. The famous piano piece, the same name. My little version of that. This is just me by the window, dark clouds drifting by, but filtering that through the mindset of the whole concept of this 3-track EP. This one's much shorter. I like that little melody, call and response. Call and response just meaning you hear it once a little lower and then you hear the answer above, like someone's saying hello back to you. There's the two parts of that melody. This part's kind of like the dark clouds to me. This one just keeps moving and moving, which I like. It's a nice change from Sur le Sable. Just right to the point, keeps driving along. Kind of hear that darkness though, like that almost like Saint-Saëns composer kind of playfulness in the darkness with those chords. Saint-Saëns is just a composer I really like who's French, for those who aren't super familiar with most classical music. He did like The Swan and everything, Carnival of the Animals, which you guys might know. Like, have you ever seen Fantasia? Like the finale with all the flamingos, Fantasia 2000. That's him. one of my favorite composers. I keep this pretty steady. I don't really deviate from the tempo very much when I play this. And then just a quick ending right there. I really like the melody I came up with right here in terms of the simplicity of it. Like, let me see if I can find it. Like I mentioned, the call and response. So there's just alternating between two chords. That little thing. Call and response, right? So low and high. And then it's resolved back to the chord. That's Sauceboro. Dark clouds drift by. And then moving on, it's going to be another shorter stream today. But moving on to the title track, Cherry Blossom Waltz. So I'm so bad at starting these on time. Thank you. So where we're at now is, like I said, we're just moving back in time, really, from the start of the album. It's like this little EP cover right over here too, right? Desert Coast, slightly kind of retro in feel. A lot of the inspiration came from like 100 years ago or so. So starting out in the desert coast, moving back through your memory, maybe to somewhere else that you've been, into those cherry blossoms, into the dark clouds, as someone who may be traveling Europe, North Africa, at some time. Or, I think a lot of this also came from like a very Californian mindset from the landscape, but I don't really totally know if that's as big of influence as I am saying it might be. So let's just go with Cherry Blossom Waltz here. I find it funny that this has its most listeners right now in Japan, which is I thought was kind of interesting when you look at the analytics of it. But thanks for everyone who's been listening to these tracks. They're so new. We'll end it off with Cherry Blossom Waltz. Very straightforward melody. And then we take off. I mean, take off is so dramatic for something like this. It's just a very small change, but to me, it's like, okay, now we're really fleshing out the whole song. And again, if you don't want to hear me talk over these ones, I'm just kind of trying to give some context. The releases are streaming everywhere. This whole 3-track EP is streaming everywhere. And some more performance videos are going to be coming out soon as well. I already released the Sur La Sable one. If you want to check it out on YouTube. So super traditional waltz in terms of, I keep it pretty strictly in 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's all that means. I spent a lot of time on this one. Trying to get the melody as interesting as possible while keeping it in this more traditional concept for the album of the time period, paying tribute to a lot of the French artists, turn of the century. And just the prettiness, cherry blossoms. Very simple at that. Taking it back. Oh no! I stopped it. Sorry. Wait, right here. Right here. There we are. I think it's nice when you can kind of take everything down in volume and just delicately say it. I think it's fun doing that. And then just a pretty quick in and out ending right there. When I say simple in my music, I've actually said this quite a few times talking about my work. I do not mean simple as an insult to what I'm doing or just like a lazy kind of comment. I really strive to just like make the simplest, clearest melody that might like stick with someone. That's usually what I'm trying to do. If it works, that's up for you guys to decide, obviously. But I really love just like streamlining stuff and trying to cut out all of the more useless information and like less um, stuff that can clutter up something. I really like a lot of the minimalism of that thought process. That's all I mean when I say that something is really simple. I personally have found it hard to like. I think making something that's effective and really, really minimal is harder than making something more like bombastic a lot of the time. Not always, but I've written plenty of more like energetic, bombastic classical pieces for orchestras and whatnot. And it's really fun, but I think like making something that sounds pretty and streamlined is more of a challenge in a lot of ways. That's just from what I've um, come across. That's just my experience. I know there might be some composers who disagree with that. Um, Sur La Sable was the first piece on this. I mean, that's a little bit more complicated in terms of what's going on, but at its core, it's a very simple piece. The runs are a little difficult, but difficulty doesn't mean that it's not simple. Lots of simple things can be difficult. Um, to me, that's just what I found. But I don't know which one you guys like the most out of these three. I feel like they're pretty varied. I feel like they're pretty different. Cherry Blossom Waltz, Sospero, Dark Clouds Drift By, and Cherry Blossom Waltz. Um, all yeah, I'm happy with the diversity of these three. I think they came across well. Like I said, the piano keys were a little sticky on this. You get a lot of key noise, which is actually kind of the intention with the concept of this, going for that more like old, old like restaurant or something along the coast kind of a feel, or just like a watercolor painting with cherry blossoms. This is such like a ethereal kind of release with the concept, and there's just so many settings going on. But I think it hopefully works. I hope you guys like it, and uh, yeah, thanks for listening to all of it. If you don't want to hear me talk over this, please check out the three on your own, streaming everywhere: Apple Music, Spotify, um, Amazon Music, just everywhere. In terms of other updates going on for me, like I said, I just got back from like a little vacation, had some friends visit, went to like two national parks in 4 days or something. So it's pretty tiring. And I got sunburnt again, which seems to be a trend from the last couple weeks. Um, but yeah, I have another trip coming up, but I have so much stuff being written. I have some releases coming out in a few weeks. I have the Salmon People. My music for Alaska Airlines is officially releasing on streaming in a few weeks, 2 weeks, I think. So just keep an eye out for that for Salmon People. Um, that's a fun project, and I hope you guys can get a chance to actually stream it instead of just seeing the kind of TikTok that Alaska Airlines posted or I shared around. And thanks to everyone who voted in my little poll as well on my channel, just about what kind of music that you personally like hearing from me. It's really helpful to consider all of this. Um, and I agree on the whole. I have plenty of more classical kind of ambient stuff coming up, as well as like I said, I have the Salmon People soundtrack coming out. I have a another collaboration with Alex, the same director from Salmon People for Alaska Airlines. Another collaboration with her coming out, and I have a solo piano track of mine that is a bit more energetic and almost aggressive and raw, which is coming out in early July. And I have plenty of other stuff I'm working on. Um, and as always, just thank you for your patience. Sorry I couldn't do this last week. If you've been looking forward to it, it just wasn't possible. I was out of service and on an island off of California. So thanks again for listening through. Thanks for your support on all of this. And hopefully, I gave a little bit of context to the release. I'm going to get back to work. I need to get some writing done. I'm kind of on crunch time before the end of the month for some commissions. So I'm gonna get back to work. But thanks again. Thank you so much. I love sharing this stuff with you guys. You're the best. Thanks for the poll and thanks for listening. Bye.